This week is going to be a slightly different one because obviously we've had a very busy weekend for the WrestleMania weekend. Some of you might notice that we're recording a little bit later than normal as well. Obviously, this is so we could watch the Raw after WrestleMania, which spoilers probably wasn't worth doing now, but we wanted to cover that as well. So we're probably going to talk a lot less on what happened in the previous week's Raws and SmackDowns. So apologies because you're going to miss our stellar reviews of those. But we just want to sort of concentrate on the Mania that almost wasn't. So hello, Carl. How are we?
Carl is good. How is Anthony?
He's good. Right. So what do you say? Should we just jump into This Week in Wrestling, in which we talk on the WrestleMania weekend first of all?
Yeah, let's kick off with night one of the WrestleMania that was too big for one night.
Too big for one night. So before we get into the full WrestleMania, I know we've not really made a note of it per se, but I just wanted a quick mention of the kickoff match for this night, purely in the fact that it was a bit of a shame that Gulak took the loss. So the match, for anyone who's not seen it, which I don't blame you if you only started watching it from Mania properly, we had Cesaro versus Drew Gulak, and given the bit of steam they've put behind them with Daniel Bryan lately, I was honestly expecting them to get the win. It was a decent match, deserved to be on the kickoff show, but again, a very, very real shame that he didn't get the win on that. I don't know what the motivation was behind giving the win to Cesaro.
Do you know what? It's a weird one because I'm happy that Cesaro got the win because I feel he's like criminally underutilized and underbooked, but at the same time, it is it's a shame for Drew to not get the ad, so it's a weird one.
No, don't get me wrong. It's not any disrespect to Cesaro when I say that. It's just because Gulak had a little bit of steam building, and they've gone nope. Whereas Cesaro, it's not like they're going to go anywhere with this for Cesaro to build up a run. So it just sort of drops two things. It just puts them both back to the bottom of the mid card. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I could be wrong. We could see SmackDown Gulak getting more attention, but it just seemed a bit odd for me, especially because, as I say, they put a bit of a head of steam on him and then had him lose clean to Cesaro in a straight up match that no one interrupted, no shenanigans, nothing like that. So it's almost an inference, isn't it, that he's not as good a wrestler as they're putting him across. I don't know.
Yeah, I think as we'll probably chat through in the next kind of hour or so here is some of the booking decisions and that they've gone with don't necessarily make a lot of sense in the first place. Yeah. So I think this was one of them. It didn't really add up why Cesaro would go over Drew Gulak when Cesaro's pretty much buried now.
Yeah.
But yeah, strange.
Yeah, it was. So again, I don't think we need to say much more on that one. So first match of the night was the women's tag team title match. So I always enjoy our first tag team of Bliss Cross Applesauce. I think they're a brilliant tag team, and I've been for a while suspecting the inevitable betrayal or split in some way, but I'm glad to see they're going to get a run with the titles. I've been asking for it in the last few podcasts, and again, spoilers for anyone listening who hasn't seen it yet, but I mean, if you're listening to a Mania results show and you haven't seen Mania, it's on you. But so yeah, Alexa Bliss and I keep forgetting her first name, and Cross. They took the win on this one against the Kabuki Warriors. How did you find the match, Carl?
Do you know what? I thought it was a really good opening. I thought that they all kind of brought it. I think, Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss have been kind of, stepping up their game for a while now, and, they regularly impress. And I think, Asuka and Kairi Sane are also fantastic, and the actual match quality itself, I was just really surprised with. Typically for WrestleMania, they would open it with a kind of a fan favorite match to get the crowd buzzing. So like my initial thought would have been like at a regular WrestleMania, it could have been something like Owens and Rollins or something, that seems kind of big that would open it. But so I was surprised to see this, but I actually thought it was a really good opening.
No, I totally agree. And what I thought was interesting about the match itself, and I'm not saying it in a negative way, but most of the in-ring action was Nikki rather than Alexa. Which I thought was actually a really good way of doing it. And that's not to say that she didn't have some big spots. I mean, we saw Alexa with the crossbody off the ring apron. We saw a couple of twisted blisses, so she was doing some high spots. She was definitely heavily involved, and it was actually Alexa who took the win. But I think it was a good way, and I do feel it was deliberate. But to put a lot of the actual in-ring action on Nikki Cross, I think was a good way of getting her across, because she's obviously the sort of the younger talent, the newer one, as far as being established as an in-ring competitor. So I think it was good to have a bit of a show of her in-ring ability. And I think she really did a really good job as well. In some respects, for me, it was actually a shame that she didn't get the pin, because she put the work in, then got the tag to Alexa, Twisted Bliss, and win. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's almost a shame she never got the actual pin victory. But that being said, she performed fantastically, and I think it was a good display of her as a wrestler.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, she's kind of tore it up for years on the indies and stuff. I think she came up with Killian Dane. I'm not even sure they might be husband, like married, possibly.
They're definitely they interact a lot on Twitter, so they're definitely like they have a good relationship, whether it's a romantic one or not. They definitely are good friends, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think she's always been kind of quality in the ring and stuff, and it's good for her to finally get that exposure in the WWE. I think I was really intrigued at the way they booked this match because of that fact. Alexa was on the outside for a lot of it, and kind of it was like a Nikki underdog story fighting for the team. And this kind of made me think at the time, okay, there's going to be a turn here. I thought it was going to be like they were building towards the Kabuki Warriors getting the win, and then Nikki kind of turning on Alexa for being on the outside, or vice versa. So, I was kind of pleasantly surprised at the fact that didn't actually happen. And it was just more of a, giving props to Nikki Cross.
I think no, I totally agree with you. And again, we've probably both speculated on that inevitable turn. That's what tag teams tend to do. I think, given the state of the women's tag division at the moment, it would have been a mistake, and I'm so glad they haven't done it. Because I think a good run with a tag team that have been sort of well established before the titles, it makes a bit of sense, because they haven't turned into a tag team to get the titles. They've been together for a while anyway. So it feels natural that they're going for the titles, and it'll be a good run. I hope they keep it for a little while, and I hope they build up another tag team well before that challenge comes along.
Well, that's it. I mean, you were saying around the state of the women's tag division. Like, for me, I don't know whether the Kabuki Warriors are going to go separate ways now, because they've been having Asuka have a number of singles matches in the build up to this. We've not really seen Kairi Sane for a while, and then we'll talk about it later, but Asuka had a singles match again on the Raw after WrestleMania. So
yeah, a couple of bits I will mention on that without straying too far from talking about the match itself is that there's been suggestion that Asuka, or the creative, have got to focus on Asuka going back into a singles run, which certainly seems to be the case. But the other suggestion, apparently it's a fact, that Kairi Sane was having some sort of time at home back in Japan, which was why she wasn't there until Mania. Which
I think she might have got married, actually.
I think that's probably why she was back in Japan for that. But when you see her back at Mania, you go, well, is this her back now? And as you say, without delving too far into Raw, we didn't see her. We saw Asuka again. So I don't know if maybe she's going to have some time out, and she came back for Mania, biggest show of the year, but she's actually going to have some time out for a little bit. I don't know. It's just me, and it's purely speculation, but I was a little bit worried when the Kabuki Warriors came out, because is it just me, or did Kairi Sane not seem that enthused coming out to the ring? When she first walked out, it looked a little bit like she couldn't be asked.
Yeah, definitely.
And don't get me wrong, the actual in-ring competition itself, it did not reflect that. It wasn't like she was just phoning it in. She definitely put her all into the match, but it just almost seemed a bit like she was, making herself come out to the ring. Do you know what I mean? Not the usual enthusiasm.
No, I think that was probably the first time she wrestled in front of an empty arena, because I think the rest
to be fair,
for a while, so maybe she was just a bit overwhelmed potentially, but I definitely picked up on it.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, that, to be fair, mate. She's not as familiar with it as the others have been. They've had weeks of getting used to that sort of that entrance, and there was no pop. Yeah, so I think unless there's anything else, I think that's all I needed to say on that match, really.
Yeah, I think it was a really good kickoff.
Yeah, and I'm happy with the result as well.
Yeah.
So we move on to I don't know if this was a disappointing match. So we had Corbin versus Elias.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the fact that Elias won. I think that was the right result. And he came out with a bit of ferocity, is that the right word? He came out with a bit of aggression. And they done that whole sort of bit with the mic at the beginning where he's like, oh, he's not going to show up, just count to 10 so I can get my second victory at Mania and all this. And it's, he obviously was going to come out, but it was good to see he come out with that aggression. He really went for him. Then it sort of balanced out a little bit, but it was good to see Elias get the win. He's somebody who I feel like I could get behind him as a wrestler, but I haven't actually seen him in the ring all that much. So it was nice to see that. It was nice to see an actual match. There was no real fucking about in a lot of sense. It wasn't like 7 people come out and interrupted for no fucking reason or anything like that. And he got the win that he should have got. Weirdly, I think in the last couple of weeks for this match, they pulled it together in terms of building something that you go, yeah, I want to see Elias win. And not just because I don't like Corbin, I want to see him win because it's like a payback thing at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it wasn't a big match, but it filled time.
Yeah. It's one of them. I do really like Elias. I think, to be honest, he's going to suffer more than a lot of people with the lack of crowd, because he, his whole gimmick of that kind of fan interaction and, playing the songs for them and stuff like that, like, it is going to be really difficult for him. So I think, considering them circumstances, what they did to try and get the feud over with the whole fucking Lion King ripoff and, all this good stuff that they did, was all right. Yeah. But I think, that being said, the match itself, yeah, I don't know whether just because I've said this before, Corbin's got X-Pac heat. People, he's not a heel. He's just fucking, people just don't like him because he's just a dick.
Yeah.
So
he's not a heel. He's a dick.
Exactly. So I mean, I don't know whether it's partly a contributing factor of that or what, but I don't find myself getting invested in anything that he does. So for me, this was literally just, it was there, it happened.
Yeah.
Let's get through.
I agree. If it weren't Elias, if you put any other mid-carder on that, it would have been even worse, in all fairness. Okay. Elias gets a little bit, and like you say, without the crowd, it's even harder for him. I think they handled it well in the sense of, like, the way they booked it. You understand why he didn't come out and prat about with his guitar. Not just because the audience were there, because he wanted to get in there and kick his ass. So it made a little bit of sense why he sort of rushed out to get him. Yeah,
but I think for me as well, for Elias, I do see quite a big future for him if he can, once things go back to normal and we get back the crowds and stuff again. I think he has got away with the crowd, so I think if he can kind of push on from what he's got at the minute with, like, the whole Walk with Elias thing and kind of go a little bit more mainstream with what he's doing and not just be too gimmicky, then he's got the size, he's got, he's a decent in-ring performer, he's definitely not bad. So I think
I think he's got the chops to improve. I mean, look at the likes of the Miz, who you wouldn't have thought would have ever been a decent wrestler when he first come out, as he's put the work in and the time in, and he's really good in the ring. And Elias has already got something, so I think with a bit of work, he could definitely be an awesome in-ring performer.
Yeah, fingers crossed it happens.
Oh yeah, sincerely. And worst case, he could always just do the SmackDown theme, make some dollar that way.
Yeah.
They need a new one. So moving on to the well, for me, the biggest disappointments, not just of the night of WrestleMania. This was the biggest fucking letdown of the entire weekend for me. I don't know if you personally feel that way, but this was shit. And we're talking about Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler.
Yeah, I think, we've been saying for weeks now, like, they had this really good start to the feud. It wasn't even really good, but they had an interesting start to the feud where fucking, Shayna comes out, takes a chunk out of Becky. You've got Becky the Vampire Slayer out for revenge, and they just go on for weeks and weeks. And this was just like a damp squib. It was nothing. There was no intensity. There was no brutality. There was
barely a match.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. This was, honestly, right. This is the best way I can explain it. I wanted Owens versus Rollins, the actual content of the match. That's what I wanted to see for Lynch Baszler. Where they're fucking going for each other. Yeah. Where there's massive spots outside, where they're jumping off signs, they're smashing tables, all sorts like that going on. That's what I wanted to see. And what we got was Shayna Baszler making a bit of a bitch out of it, even though ultimately Lynch took the win. Surprisingly, a bad decision as far as I'm concerned. But even though Lynch basically took the win, Shayna was there, like, just ragdolling her into the announce table and stuff. And this, to me, all through the match, I just had ringing in my head. That's that promo where Becky Lynch come out with the paper bag full of money. I'm like, what a waste of money. I want to see a scene where somebody from the WWE like office or whatever who deals with the finances just awkwardly comes out and gives her that bag of fucking money back because she didn't do shit.
Oh, I would love to see that so much. But like, you're absolutely right, aren't you? But like, why go through all this fucking, rhetoric of I'm gonna fucking do so much damage to you
Yeah.
that I'm gonna, pay me
Yeah,
fine.
I'm gonna pay me fine in advance. Like, and then she
For
did
what?
nothing. And then weirdly, the interviewer after the match and go to her like, "Oh, how are you feeling?" And she was just acting like it was any normal match, like there wasn't any bad blood. She's like, "Oh, she might not be done. Who knows? I'm ready for it." And you're like, "Are you not bothered anymore? She bit you." Like, let's look at kayfabe. She bit you. What the fuck?
Exactly.
But yeah, and it's almost Lynch's with us lot, where it's like, yeah, I was annoyed, but I kind of got bored, because it took that long. Maybe she's in the same boat as us lot. I don't know, but it was such an odd booking that they've not really they've made Lynch look stupid because she's now all bark and no bite as far as I'm concerned. She might have won the match, but she was talking so much about what she's gonna do, and she did fuck all.
Do you know what? That's fucking fantastic because I think that is a really accurate. She is all fucking bark and no bite, and fucking Shayna Baszler is all bite and no bark because fucking hell. That's literally the
I
only
like it.
thing. The only thing she fucking did, in the whole feud, and everything else. She can't talk. She can't
Nope.
fucking do much. And as well, not being funny. This is about the fourth or fifth time now where she's put that fucking choke on someone and then been pinned that way. Like fucking hell, learn,
Yeah.
woman. Like
It doesn't work.
exactly. Either get a new finish or fucking let go. You can let go. You don't have to lie
That's the
there for
funny
3
thing.
seconds.
And it's like, all right, I know you used to be in a cage fighter, and cage fighting doesn't work that way, but wrestling does. So, if they can pin you in the move you're doing, probably not a great move.
Exactly. And also just another little really minor point. Why the fuck is it what vehicle's Becky gonna drive this week? Why she gotta fucking drive like a big fucking truck and stuff like that every week?
I really
Ambulances
don't
and I just want to see her come out on a fucking unicycle now just for shits and gigs.
know. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know why I'm mentioning this, but just a little thing as well. Was it just me, or was that truck really quiet for a truck?
Yeah.
Like oddly
Actually.
quiet. I was like, is that thing on? Are they just rolling it like without the engine? Anyway, just a side note that. That's
Yeah.
how bored I was with this match, Carl. This is the shit I was noticing because the match was boring as fuck. Yeah, so biggest disappointment of the WrestleMania weekend, that for me, which is surprising because there's some weak stuff on here. Don't get me wrong, I actually really enjoyed WrestleMania. I think they did the best of what they had, but as any pay-per-view, there's going to be some weaker matches. This should not have been one of them.
Yeah. I think all the build, all the hype, they're really trying to remind us how over Becky is, and she's held the title for a year, and yeah, just what a load of shite.
Yeah, and now it's a bit like, okay, how long is she going to have the title? Because we're all a bit bored of her having it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on to Sami Zayn versus who's that unknown talent he went against? Daniel Bryan. So to be honest, for me, I was a bit disappointed in this match. Not overall, because I think Sami's doing a good heel job, right? And he's playing that Weasley heel who doesn't want to get into the action, right? Now, the bit that I don't like is the fact that Sami Zayn is a technically good wrestler, as is Daniel Bryan. That would have been a really good match to watch in a technical sense, and we barely got that.
No.
Right, and I get it because it plays into the character Sammy's playing, and this is probably just more of a personal thing because all these matches can't be like this. But this is one of those matches where I would have preferred seeing just one-on-one, no shenanigans, just them having a straight match. And yeah, it was a bit of a disappointment in that sense. Like, it was a bit of a surprise win, and I like the way they did it as well because you thought Daniel was going to have it. And it sort of, the loss was kind of based off that distraction of Cesaro and Shinsuke on the outside. But the fact that he was coming off the top rope to do I don't know, some sort of splash or whatever he was going to do, and just sudden haluva kick out of nowhere, I thought was quite good. But yeah, for me there was just not enough actual match content, like in the ring content. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, this match got me really thinking. I don't even know if he's properly cleared, because if you think about it, he's been on the shelf for ages, right? He comes back, he's in this like managerial role, then they somehow give him the IC title. I mean, he's torn his fucking rotator cuffs like 2 or 3 times in both shoulders, and you know, he is, as you said, he's very technically gifted. On the Indies, he was, he was phenomenal. He was one
Well,
of
even
the
his earlier
best
days
wrestlers out
in
there.
his earlier WWE days, he was really good. Like when he was sort of feuding with Kevin Owens and stuff, you get to see a lot of in-ring ability from him. Probably not the best storylines, but he was definitely a good in-ring competitor. And you may have a point. I mean, maybe he's not fully cleared because the bits he was doing weren't much. I mean, he spent a lot of it trying to just not go in the ring and pushing the count out as long as he could. And then the biggest spot he did was the haluva kick, which wouldn't affect him too much
Yeah,
injury wise. So maybe you're right. Maybe he still has to be very, very careful. I don't know.
it just felt off because I mean, like, if that is the case, then why put it on him? Why not put it on fucking Cesaro or even Shinsuke? Like, I don't know, just didn't make sense. Like, if he can't go in the ring anymore, don't give him the fucking IC title.
This is the thing. And if there's going to be a point when he can go in the ring again, fine. But don't put him in the ring before it, because then what you end up with is us thinking that he's shit.
Exactly.
Because if we see too many matches like this, we'll go, he's not much of a wrestler, which like. Fortunately, we know he is, but it's it wasn't a good display of his ability, which is a shame.
No, and I think as well, thinking about Daniel Bryan, like, he's on a bit of a skid, isn't he? When you think about it, he came off the Fiend loss, which at the time the Fiend was fucking
He was red hot.
So exactly, he didn't come off looking bad, but then he's now lost to fucking Sami Zayn, and it's like, what is next? Is he just going to be a tag team now with Drew Gulak? Like, how do you go from? He's just, I don't know. He's a very roller coaster of booking, I think, with Daniel Bryan.
I think it seems to give him a bit of autonomy in creative control, and I think he's trying to push the right people. But I think that's going to make, as a wrestler, as story wise as it goes, it's going to make a very confusing couple of years for Bryan. Because, like you say, is he going to keep tag teaming with Gulak to get Gulak over, and then when he's done his job there, he's going to move on to something else random? I don't know. It, like you say, it seems a bit of a skid at the moment for him, really.
I think it just screams to me that he's probably looking to wind down now. Like, he's got 2 kids, he's got a kid and he's got a second on the way, I think, hasn't he? But
yeah.
It's that kind of lifestyle being away. Brie isn't doing anything like that anymore. She's literally at home all the time with the kids. So it's like, I think he's the kind of guy
travel.
Yeah, I think he's probably at a point now where he doesn't know where else he can really go. He's achieved everything he wanted to achieve, so
he won't want to get into anything too heavy story wise, because then he can have time off when he wants it.
Yeah. Maybe he has just said, you know what, I want to go out by putting over the likes of a Drew Gulak and a Sami Zayn and these other guys from Ring of Honor and stuff who came up the same way as me and who are, haven't had the chances that I've had.
I think that is the sort of typically the type of thing he'd do, as a guy. He seems that way out, and fair play to him. I think from a kayfabe point of view, it makes things a bit confusing because he can hopefully get Gulak the push he deserves, because Gulak does seem really good in the ring, but then like you say, he's just going to move on to the next thing randomly, and I don't know. It'd be interesting to see where they go with it. I'd be interested to see this week's SmackDown and see sort of what capacity he's in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, nice little surprise win. IC title's a bit of a confusing one for me at the minute, but I don't want to see it move around too much. It's already moved hands quite a lot, so maybe stay with Zayn for a little while, to be fair, anyway. Assuming we get some decent matches out of it. So the next match of the night was a very confusing singles ladder match, triple threat for the tag titles. Okay.
Right. Did they even explain this? Because if they did, I missed it.
I think it was very briefly when they put the card up and said, this is the next match. I think they very briefly explained that The Miz was out or something along that line. So this is what they've all, I don't know, they drew straws or some shit to decide which partner would go into the match. I mean, wouldn't you just put Big E in there? No offense, Kofi, but Big E's a tank. Wouldn't you just put Big E in there? He's not exactly someone you can move easily. Anyway, overall, this was I enjoyed the match. It was a good match. I love the sort of twist ending. I don't know if it's technically a twist ending, but I wasn't expecting that to be the end. Even I was a bit dumbfounded when it's like, oh shit, he took the belts with him. So I quite like the way they did that. And for those who haven't seen it and have decided to listen to us instead of watching Mania, it was John Morrison who took the win. So he is now the tag champions. I think that's how it works, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's has to, tag himself in and out throughout matches now.
And so it was a good match. Obviously, they were were dampened massively by the fact that this couldn't be what it was built up to be. Which, as a side note, it did massively tickle me when JBL's there. JBL being the absolute legend that he is on commentary, fantastic, isn't he? When he was like, "Oh, this match is everything that they said it would be," and I'm like, "Yeah, except a fucking tag match, JBL, because that's what they said it would be, you tit." But other than that, yeah, it was everything they said it would be.
I think I'm just thinking about what you said then around them drawing straws or something. Like, imagine how shit it must be to be Jey Uso. Like, literally, you're fucking twins. Like, why Jimmy?
Yeah, and it's like you could understand the Kofi one. It's like, well, he was the bigger wrestler as stardom goes. He won the world title and all that. You could understand many reasonings for that, but yeah, did they flip a coin with Jimmy and Jay? I honestly didn't know which one. I had to wait for them to say.
Yeah, it is mental.
And I'll be honest, the only thing I do want to say on this match, it was a good match. Obviously, typical with a ladder match, there was a lot of high spots there. But when you're dealing with two people, when you're dealing with the Prince of Parkour and Kofi, because he hasn't got a funny nickname, they're both brilliant at this sort of stuff. They were both doing some really high spots. But the problem is, for me, they made Jimmy look weak as fuck because he couldn't. He was doing big stuff as far as an Uso goes. Do you know what I mean? And he was taking some shots. I mean, there was that bit where Kofi landed on him from the ladder, onto the ladder onto him. But even so, it was like, they looked a lot better in the ring because of their abilities with this sort of gimmick. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's two very difficult people to compete against in this kind of environment. Do you know what I mean? I think.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's no discredit at all to Jimmy Uso. He came out well, and he is a good wrestler overall. But this made him look weak, and it was never not going to. I think that's kind of the damaging factor of not having Big E and the other guy, The Miz, in there, is that you're only stuck with the high flyers then, so you consequently shown for the fact that you're not.
Yeah, no, it's a fair shout. I think it's one of them. It was always going to be a really good match. It's the caliber of people who are in it, with the kind of risk taking, high flying shit that they can do. Coupled with ladder matches, which are always fantastic matches to watch. And the Kofi and John Morrison are both the spot monkeys, aren't they? Whether it's the Rumble, whether it's ladder matches, they always do crazy shit. And I think
that's the thing. That's what you wait for, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they tried to change
with
it
that. I don't know what you call that movie does off the ropes.
Oh, is it Starship Troopers? Starship Pain, something like that.
Starship Pain, I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. But the way he used that, he put the ladder across the middle rope, and he managed to pull that off as well. Again, it was like a good spot. It was a nice way to see. Do you know what I mean? It was a good modification to his finisher, including the ladder. And it's things like that. It's like you say, the spot monkeys, aren't they? It's what they do.
Yeah, and I think the ladder match and TLCs and all these kind of things over the years, it's hard to come up with different things. And I think there was one or two different things that they did try in this one, like some kind of jumping through the ladders and stuff like that. So it's nice that they were still trying to shake it up. And I think, as you said, the finish itself, where all three of them got hold of the tag titles, and it was kind of like, well, what does that mean? And then with Morrison getting hit and falling back, just so happened to still be holding them, it was different, wasn't it? It's how much can you shake up?
And for me, I think it was because of how sudden it was, because it just looked like your typical, they've knocked him off, so it's between them two, and then you almost double take and go, hang on, they've not got the belts.
Yeah,
and it was that sort of almost shock win where you're like, oh yeah, he's took him with them. So I enjoyed seeing that. That was good, but yeah, I mean, overall, I think that's all we need to say on that match, really. I think it was the right call to have the titles not change hands, is the only other note I'd make. I think they need to have a bit of a run with Miz and Morrison. So, again, I think the decision was the right call as well.
Yep.
Moving on to Owens v Rollins. Fair play for this one. I don't think this was pretty much what I expected from it. Sadly, I don't think it'll go down as the match of the night or anything along that line. But I was so made up with the fact that they did not have any interference, any shenanigans, anything like that. It was just a straightforward match between them two. There was some big spots there. There was a lot of out of the ring action. It felt very personal and very like they really wanted to go for each other. That was all good stuff. But I'm so glad it was just them two, and just them two doing what they do best, you know.
That was the biggest win of all for me. I think I'd been very overt about kind of really looking forward to this match. You know, the two guys who I think are really, really good, and I was really excited to see them just kind of go one-on-one. So the fact that they were allowed to do that was just refreshing as fuck.
We've expressed so many times the concern with the fact that every other week there seemed to be like the Viking Raiders turning up, and then the Authors of Pain, and then the Street Profits for some reason, and just this, adding so many people into the story arc for no reason. And there was that worry was always there with this. But yeah, I'm so glad it was a straightforward match in that sense. And to be fair, they both performed really well. I think the only thing I would say, and I don't want to be too negative on it because it was a good match and I enjoyed it, I feel like the spot with Kevin Owens jumping off the WrestleMania sign, I feel like they were almost trying to push it on us as a WrestleMania moment rather than us deciding it as we typically do. Like, we're the audience, we go, that was a big moment. I feel like they were almost going to us, look, this is the WrestleMania moment here, look at this one. And that kind of bugged me a little bit, but I hate it when the WWE try and tell me what to like anyway, so it's probably because of that.
Yeah, I think I saw somewhere, I'm not sure whether it was on some sort of documentary or it might be just been something on social media, but Kevin Owens had said when he first saw the stadium for where it was meant to be, and they've got like a giant pirate ship in the stadium, he said to himself, like, I'm jumping off that. So he'd kind of set himself, you know, the dream of like that being his WrestleMania moment. So I think it was more like his way of kind of saying, yeah, I think he was like, I might not be able to jump off the fucking ship, but I can jump off this big sign and still get my kind of moment kind of thing. So I do think I get where you're coming from with the whole, you know, this is my WrestleMania moment. Like, it is for us to decide. But I think, you know, to him, he was just kind of saying, I can still have my WrestleMania moment, I think. But
yeah, okay, I get that. I do get that. And as I say, I don't want to be too unfair to the match because I did enjoy it. It was a good match. It was exactly what I wanted for the match. So, you know, fair enough in that sense. I honestly, I don't know if it got you. It got me when Seth got the like, he was basically going to leave because of the whole DQ incident. And he was actually started walking up the ramp. I honestly thought that was it. I thought they were going to do us like that. And I was like, I'm so pissed off right now. But then when they built it back where Kevin's like, no, you don't get to do it this way, and we're going to make it a no DQ match, I was made up. That I don't even mind the little red herring where they make it look like the match was going to be over, because I was so ready to be pissed off that they'd actually done that to us. But fair enough. Looking back now, that was a bit of a funny one.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I thought it was probably a little bit too overproduced. I think they could have just said from the offset, you know, we've got that much bad blood, it's going to be a no DQ match, or, you know, however they were going to play it. I felt like the match itself was awesome, but I don't know that it needed the whole kind of, oh, here's the DQ, and then, you know, because it kind of goes back into the territory of, no, I'm now going to make a match and it's a no D, and it's like, fucking hell, now he's making matches in a match, and it's like, fuck me, just literally stop overproducing it and just say, this is the fucking match, it's a grudge match, you know, don't even call it no DQ if that's what they don't want, and just let them fucking go at it. Because I thought, you know, the first bit of the match where it was you know, that led to the DQ was just a bit meh, as you said, but then once they actually got into the, okay, now it's a no DQ match, that's when it kind of took off for me and became like a really good match. So I just think it was good, it was fine, but a little bit overproduced. But that being said, I'm just happy there was no fucking, you know, 20 or 30 other fucking random plebs getting involved.
I think we can all be made up with that. I was honestly suspecting Samoa Joe. I really was, at least. But I am made up it ended the way it ended. So, all in all, decent match. So, the surprisingly not main event match, for very understandable reasons, I think it was the right thing to do not to put it last, was the clearly well story built, you know, Goldberg versus, let's see, who was it? Braun Strowman. Yeah, that's where we ended. That's where we landed. Roman who? Very straight. Before we even get into the match itself, which I almost missed because I went to go make a drink. Always a mistake when Goldberg's on, because you know it's not going to last long. But nevertheless, it was weird that they barely announced this was going to happen. They barely explained the Roman situation I think it was just mentioned on social media, and that was that. That was how. It's not like WWE did anything proper about it, and they could have done. They could have even like because I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, well, maybe they already pre-recorded the SmackDown before, so they didn't have time and so on. But I'm like, how much time does it take to put Triple H on the screen at the end or at some point? Just edit him in on the screen explaining the fucking situation. How much time does that truly take? So it's not. I think they were just lazy with going. Roman can't, so there's Braun. And I almost feel bad for Braun that it's like, yeah, you got your WrestleMania moment because everyone else is sick and you're still here.
Yeah, I feel like I get that they're trying to suspend belief in everything that's going on in the real world, and they probably don't want to be like, oh well, we don't want Roman to be around because he might die because he's had leukemia, and it is a very like grim kind of subject matter, isn't it, to talk about? But you can't just not fucking mention it.
Yeah, you can't go for the well. If we ignore it, it might go away approach.
Yeah, like literally
even the dressing, like
insane.
The only other thing, like at least they didn't try and pretend it was Roman.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time, would
it? Diesel. Anyone? Diesel?
Well, yeah, fucking hell. I don't know.
It was. I don't know. It would have made sense. Like, let's be honest. How quickly did they book the Roman match in the first place? All Braun had to do is the same thing. Come out and go, me. I'll take his spot. It would have been booked the exact same fucking way. Yeah. Not a problem. So it's not like they couldn't have done something with it. But to just sort of, let's face it, if you went into social media, that would have been dropped on you at WrestleMania. You wouldn't have known about it beforehand. Mm-hmm. So you'd have just been like, wait, what happened to Roman? Which is a bit of a... In fact, Carl, I don't know if you noticed, but even on one of your, I think it was on TikTok, someone actually put that Roman's not out when you announced that he wasn't in it. Like some people weren't even believing it, and you're like, well, see, this is the thing, because we're all aware of it, but WWE have said fuck all. So some people were going, no, he's still in it, and some people aren't. And why not just clarify it? It only made for potential disappointment anyway. Yeah,
I don't know. It's a bonkers decision, I think, by WWE not to, do something that made any sense. It was just literally, Braun came out. It was like, oh yeah, it's Braun now, and no mention of it. So it was just crazy.
And that being said,
what did you make of the match itself?
I was surprised at the win. I didn't think Braun was going to win because he was a placeholder. He was never meant to be in the match. I thought they were going to keep the strap on Goldberg until Roman was in a position to wrestle him. And then at the beginning of the match, it's a bit of a spear fest. So I'm like, hang on. Yeah, he's just going to ruin Braun. That's not good for Braun. But then obviously we started getting, it was spear versus power slam, which doesn't have the same ring to spear versus spear, I'll be honest. But there you go. And and then Braun just answered back with all his finishes. I know Goldberg hit about 4 spears to probably an equal amount of power slams. I think maybe there was a 5th one in there. You lose count because it's just the same 2 moves going around the ring. But all in all, it was a quick match. It was a shit match, but we got the win for Braun. We have a bit of a surprise result there. And hopefully Braun gets a nice run with the title. I do genuinely worry for him that he's just going to be a placeholder for Roman or potentially someone else coming back and going, right, let's give him a title run because we like him more. Because I don't know what it is. I mean, bear in mind this is. I was thinking about this, and it's like, well, this is a man who was pinned by Sami Zayn not even a month ago for the IC title, the first title he'd ever held, singles wise, and now he's the Universal Champion.
It is literally crazy. I mean, if you think about it, there's been so many times over the last kind of year or two where Braun has been massively over, and they could have gone, do you know what, we're going to give him the shot, and they didn't. So
and now they've done it at probably the worst time for him.
Exactly. They've only done it because Roman wasn't available. This whole thing was built up just so they could, it was for Roman. The Fiend died for Roman. Like, they put it on Goldberg so that they could have spear versus spear and have Roman overcome Goldberg, the guy who's beat Brock Lesnar in the Fiend. That's what it was all boiled down to, and it blew up in the face. And sounds bad and cynical of me, but fucking serves them right. I just hope that...
No, I totally agree. From a creative point of view, from a WWE creative point of view, once again trying to tell us what to like, they deserve this. But that is in no way anything against Roman. It was a shit situation for him. And, I didn't wish him to have to miss the match out, especially for the reasons he has. But I totally agree with you that it's almost a bit of like, that's what you get, for WWE Creative, because they were once again trying to ram it down our throats. And it was a shame because after Roman come back, he didn't jump straight into the main title scene. And I thought they'd learned the lesson. I thought they'd gone, right, we're not going to thrust him right in everyone's face again because they didn't like that the first time. But then, they give it a little bit of time where he's feuding with Corbin over and over and over and over. And then they jump him right back into the title picture. So, it might be a bit of a blessing for Roman in that sense, because I think it probably would have been had the COVID-19 situation not been the case and they had have actually had an audience, I don't think it'd have been well received him taking the win anyway. So
yeah, I think as well that in terms of the match itself, I think we never expected it to be a clinic when it was against fucking Roman, but when it was against Braun, you knew straight away that there wasn't going to be much to this. But you know what it reminded me of? Remember all the years we used to play SmackDown versus Raw, and you could like set the matches to like start with unlimited finishes and start with 100% fucking body damage. That was what it was. It was literally fucking a finisher spam fest. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just who's going to take it first.
Yeah,
it's sadly, the two similar wrestlers in that sense, they've not got a lot of technical ability and they've not got a lot of time to give in the ring. Braun maybe more so than Goldberg, because Goldberg's a weak old man now. I do love the fact that they teased that he was going to do the jackhammer, and I was like, that's not fucking happening. It wasn't believable.
Fucking hell.
It's like,
no chance.
The minute he went to start it, I was like, that's not happening. I don't even need the suspension of disbelief here. That's not going to happen. Something's going to stop you from doing that because you're not lifting that fucker.
I think that was less believable than the match that followed. And that's saying something.
That is saying something. So yeah, we have a new Universal Champion. Brilliant. Let's see where they go with that. So the last match of night one was the Boneyard match. The Boneyard match, Carl, which was a buried live match, but we're not allowed to say that.
I mean, is Boneyard match, that much better?
I'll be honest, it sounds like it has more of a sexual connotation.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like, when he was going to take AJ to the Boneyard, I was a bit worried for AJ, I'll be honest. But I loved it. I think it was the right call having this on last, because it was it wasn't an in-ring thing. It was this sort of almost mini film on location. And let's be honest, if we'd have had this and then gone to the main event of the night, being Goldberg versus Braun, it would have been so underwhelming that I'd have probably turned it off and gone to bed. So probably the right move, having the Boneyard match last. Although unusual, because without moving into night two too quickly, they did not do that with night two. So there you go. So it was insane. It was an insane movie. We got to see classic Taker come back on his bike. I loved it. I even loved the tease where the hearse pulls up and it's got the creepy music, and you're like, it's a classic Undertaker entrance. And it was AJ in the coffin. That was fucking brilliant. I love the subverting the expectation. It was brilliant. And then obviously we had just Taker rock up like this sort of biker badass with that cool music playing as he come in, which I think was AC/DC. Oh no, I think was Metallica. Sorry, AC/DC was. I'll get onto that mention of AC/DC actually, because that was in my head as well. But yeah, I think it was Metallica, although I don't know the song. But yeah, it was just awesome. And then the only one of the main things that confused the fuck out of me was the Druids turning on them. I don't even know how that worked, but
yeah,
we had that scene.
I'm assuming for whatever reason AJ and the OC just got a load of guys to dress up as Druids, maybe.
No, for a brief second, and this would have been way too much in hindsight, but this is how my head worked. For a brief second, when the Druids surrounded him and started attacking him, I was like, are these going to end up being other wrestlers, like young talent, because they took umbrage to Undertaker saying that none of the new talent can hold up? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if they'd have pulled the cloaks down, it was like Ziggler and people like that. And I was thinking, are they going to do this? And then the more I think about it, more I'm like, that probably would have been too much in hindsight, but that's where my head went, I'll be honest.
Because an interesting take.
They had this weird back and forth, didn't they, before that, when Undertaker was shooting down AJ Styles, he shot down most of the roster at the same time, saying that they couldn't compete in his day, essentially. So I thought, are they doing that story-wise? Was that done purposefully? Apparently not. But nevertheless, the only thing, and I don't want to give it a negative because I thoroughly enjoyed it. And there's some massive spots, AJ getting thrown off roofs and all sorts. But the only thing for me is, like, he embarrassed the entire OC there. Like they all got their asses handed to them. Like,
I mean, that's kind of been the status quo for weeks now, isn't it? Let's be fair.
Yeah. But yeah, they were like, especially Gallows and Anderson, they weren't even a credible threat. They were there to help AJ out and did barely anything. I think he chucked them, every single one of them, off the roof. And then, did you even see them again after that spot? I know he drags AJ to the grave, but I don't think we
sure
saw
they're all dead.
Yeah, that would be the twist. Is like, oh wow, he actually killed them, and we don't know where he's gone.
Yeah,
but and that, like, sort of, it was, he's almost turned into a weird hybrid of this sort of biker but still the dead man thing, because he done that bit where AJ chucked him into the grave and he was about to pour the soil on, and then he just turned up behind him out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, so you can still do the teleporting thing? Okay.
Do you know what? I got major Terminator vibes.
Yeah. I take your point. I think the leathers and the bike and the badass attitude. Yeah.
Like, he wasn't in denim and stuff like, the American badass of old. Like, he had a bandana on, but he still had his little leather get-up on as well. It was like this hybrid of, he is.
He had this Bianca Belair ponytail going on as well, didn't he?
But he's got powers. Oh yeah, of course. I think you could tell he's always fuming when his bandana falls off, and you can see his little bald shiny head where he's clinging onto the tiny little bit of hair he's got.
Yeah, I actually preferred it when he sort of just went with it and was like, right, I'm just going to shave it off. But he's going for a weird sort of rat tail thing now. Fair enough. I'm no fashion icon either. So, but yeah, I mentioned it in previous podcasts, and I mention it again. It fully tweaks my nostalgia when I see that Taker turn up. Like, although he wasn't quite the American badass, that was the Taker I knew when I started watching wrestling. And as much as I love the proper Undertaker, the proper dead man, as it were, that wasn't the one I started with. So for me, this was like, this just took me back. Took me way back, especially with it being a buried alive match. Although they didn't want to say it, I know it was on location, but that's a classic staple of Undertaker as well. It was boss.
I think when you think about it, it wouldn't have been as impactful if he was the dead man for this match, because it was built a lot on trash talk and stuff, wasn't it? It was like, come on, boy, and stuff like that. The dead man wouldn't have said that, whereas like the badass, Texas biker would say that kind of shit.
Yeah, I take your point. Because he did go full Texan, really, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like, he was like, did you for a split second, right? And again, I don't like to talk too much on the match itself, because people are just listening for our opinions rather than the actual results. But when he sort of was going to throw AJ into the grave, and then he was like, "I know you fought well, blah blah blah," and give him a hug. Did you? For a second, I thought they were going to end it there. Did you get that vibe, or did you know that was never going to end like that?
Yeah, that was never happening.
Because like, how do you bring AJ? Because normally it's Undertaker. Surprisingly, it's Undertaker who gets buried to come back. As the undead. The most notable one I remember from my childhood was when Kane took umbrage to the fact that he was the American badass and buried him alive, and then he came back as the Undertaker, as the dead man. And I for me, I'm like, what are they going to do with AJ? Is he going to come back as like a tiny Undertaker? Because he's not got the height. But...
Well, he was the phenomenal AJ Styles, who's now just going to be the phenom and all AJ Styles. But no, again, with a very corny, twist on like the old Terminator 2 movie, the whole kind of hand still being left up after the fact, stuff like that. Like, he's not dead, is he? So it's a bit like,
yeah. But now I'll be interested, because he's going to just kind of come out. Are they going to even move his gimmick over a little bit now? And is he going to carry on bitching? Is he going to be the bitchy heel and go like, oh, it was unfair or whatever? Or is he going to come out and show a bit of respect to the Undertaker now for a hell of a match and a hell of a beating? I don't know. We're obviously going to see him again. Unless that was like, that's the end of his contract as well.
I mean, who knows? Fucking hell. But I don't know. I kind of feel like the whole stuff with the OC's hindered him a little bit over the past, couple of months. So even if this just kind of gets him away from the OC for a short amount of time, I don't know what they're going to do. They're probably going to turn up like nothing happened. But yeah, definitely interesting. I didn't actually think Taker would lose this match. I did think he'd win it, even though it was like a graveyard match. So I think when he was like, it's okay, man, you put up a fight and all this shit that he was doing, I knew, he was gonna, he wasn't being genuine there.
Yeah, and just one last little note was as he's riding away, they used the lasers to make the Taker symbol on the side of the barn as he drove away into the night. It was awesome. It was proper good little mini film. I thoroughly fucking enjoyed it.
It was just, do you know what? It was just fucking ridiculous, but not in a bad way. Like it
Oh
was.
yeah, it was all kinds of just stupid and ridiculous and crazy, but all in the right way. It was just enjoyable.
Oh yeah,
It's one of them where
I was
it
very sports
almost
entertained.
yeah. But that's the thing, and I think if you weren't a fan of the WWE or if you didn't grow up with it, and you just come in and like say like your wife just come in and she'd be like, "What the fuck are you watching?" I understand that it might look a bit like that. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck is this? But for us who grew up with it all, it just hit all the right sort of notes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For someone who's been a fan for as long as, especially for as long as we have, I think they did this perfectly.
Yeah, I think I thought for what it was, it's obviously a shame they couldn't have a proper match and a proper ring and stuff like that. But considering, the circumstances and stuff like that, I thought it was definitely something that they wouldn't be able to do in normal circumstances. So it was very very unique, I would say. Just an absolutely bonkers way to end night one of WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, totally agree. So for me, that was night one, and we'll rate them separately. So for me, night one, I'd give it a 3 out of 5. This was probably for me, without spoiling me rating for the next one, this was probably the weaker night of the two, but there were some really good matches here, and even the bad ones weren't too bad. This did contain my biggest disappointment of the night, but I think overall I'd give it a 3.
Okay, I've got a rating of 2 for this, and it kills me to say for WrestleMania, and I know all the effort and work that went into trying to deliver a good show in these circumstances, but if I have to just be honest and kind of say it as I see it, there's no way this show could get higher than a 2. It's still WrestleMania at the end of the day. It's that show that I look forward to every year, and some of the stuff on here was it wasn't brilliant. So in fact, I don't know.
I take your point. It was a really good show. Okay, fair enough. It was a really good show. I don't know if it didn't have that Mania feel to it. I will say that, but it couldn't have. It would have struggled to have.
Yeah.